It seemed to start as a simple cold. Then authorities thought perhaps it was a standard flu. It wasn't long before it was clear that the world was dealing with something much, much worse. Countries tried denying entry, mandating shutdowns, and limiting travel. But it continued to spread. It spread to every corner of the globe, and it started mutating. Governments tried everything they could as thousands upon thousands were dying. Civil unrest began to spread. Now, almost 2 years into the pandemic, as the bodies are piling up, the worst has happened.
Hello and welcome to another 31 Days of Horror 2021 video. As you can see, Leslie is not here. In fact, she's gone to bed, so I've got to keep it a little quiet. This is actually the second time I've tried to record this video, so hopefully this goes without a hitch. And the video or movie we are talking about today is Carrie. No, not the original Carrie. No, that would, if you think I haven't seen the original Carrie. And, yeah. We are talking about the 2013 remake. See, this is a duo pack. It has the original and the remake in here. And, yeah. Now, I didn't ask Leslie if she had seen the original one, but I know she's seen a lot of Stephen King adaptations and stuff, be it for television or film. And judging by the fact that she decided to go to bed and not do this review, and the fact that she was looking at her phone for a good portion of this film, I'm going to say she wasn't exactly into it. But I won't put any words into her mouth. We'll just say she isn't here. We don't know what her thoughts are on the film, but we're going to go ahead with this anyways. So yeah, Carrie remake is the next film that we're going to take a look at. And I know most of you have probably seen the original Carrie, and probably a good portion of you have seen the remake that we're about to talk about. And you may be wondering, how is it you haven't, it's 2021, how is it you haven't seen a film that came out like 8 years ago? Well, maybe you're like me and you think that the original Carrie doesn't need to be remade. It is a fantastic film by itself. Now, I haven't read the book, so I don't know how close the original film is to the book, and perhaps it missed a lot of stuff, and therefore this remake is going to attempt to put that stuff in there, but I don't know. I can't speak to that because I haven't read the book. I don't even know if I might have a copy. I don't know if I do or not. I have a lot of Stephen King. I don't know if I have that one. But that being said, thinking about a remake, why would you do a remake? I don't think, I get why, producers are going to want to do a remake. You want to put it out there because you get, new movie in front of new eyes who may have not seen Carrie, the younger generations. You also have the older generations who may be curious, how does this compare to the original? And you have all those, horror hounds who will watch it no matter what. So you're looking at it going, hey, this is easy money, right? So I get making a remake. I just don't think it needs to be done. again, perhaps the original film missed a lot of stuff that was in the book and they wanted to do that. I don't know. But yeah, if you're like me, this remake did not need to be made. But we're going to jump into it. The film's from 2013. It runs about an hour and 40 minutes long. And oddly enough, the film is rated R. Now, having watched this film, I don't quite understand the rating. I've seen a lot of films that are worse than this. They have a lot more, gore, blood, guts, and stuff. If this film was a war film, I don't know that it would get a rated R. But I guess because it is horror, it did. I don't know. I don't see the justification. I would like to see, the ratings board's notes on this as to why it got the rating. But whatever, they went with it and they didn't cut anything else to, reduce the rating to something, a little bit less than R. So whatever. I mean, we always say we want our rated R's, right? So there you go. Whatever. If you don't know the story behind Carrie, essentially we have a teenager who's been raised by her single parent mother, who is, I will say, a religious, I don't know, fanatic? Is fanatic the right word? But she's got a strong religious background, and she's being homeschooled. So we have Carrie essentially she's naive to the world. She only knows her mom, that situation, and of course the teachings of the Bible that she's been taught from her mom. And she's been forced by the state, I believe, to go into public education, to go to public high school. So this film takes place, I guess, shortly after she started at public high school. I don't know if they really say what age she is. I'm guessing it would be later years in high school. I don't know. But she's a little, well, I won't say stunted in her growth, but she's a late bloomer. And she essentially just she's been starting to go through puberty, somewhat recently. And of course that brings about the famous shower scene where she has her first period after gym class while she's showering and doesn't know anything about, period. She hasn't had that education at school. Her mom didn't give her that education, so she thinks she's dying, right? She's bleeding, she thinks she's dying, something's wrong. And of course all of her classmates tend to make fun of her and bully her. And the bullying continues on from there, even though I get the sense that she was kind of bullied before then, or at least an outcast, or ostracized, if you will. But of course, with puberty, now she is developing some special powers. She is developing telekinesis. She's becoming a telekinetic, and as her power increases and her knowledge of this and her control of her power, the film essentially turns into a revenge film where the geek or outcast who now has, special powers, is getting revenge on those who have wronged her, kind of thing. Kind of Toxic Avenger type thing. But yeah, so that's essentially it. I won't go into it too much further, just in case you've never seen Carrie. I mean, there's some famous scenes in Carrie, so if you haven't seen Carrie and you're into horror films, watch it, because a lot of movies reference Carrie, a lot of popular culture references Carrie, and I apologize, I'm kind of getting some gas or hiccups or something going on here. But yeah, so who's behind before we get into, what our thoughts are on the film, who's behind the film? Who made this movie? It's directed by Kimberly Pierce, who has little to no genre experience. Prior to this film, she had done a war movie called Stop Loss, and what she's mostly known for is a film called Boys Don't Cry, which is, a very, very good movie. Sort of a coming-of-age film, I would say. And I think that may be what got her in the door here, because she had done this fantastic coming-of-age film. Carrie's kind of a coming-of-age film. Why not, see what she can do with it. Unfortunately, I do think that her lack of genre experience, or I don't even know if she's into horror films or even Stephen King. I don't know. I didn't do any research in that respect, but yeah, it maybe it shows. Maybe that would be why there may be some problems with this film. I don't know, just saying. In terms of writing credits, of course, Stephen King gets one because it's based on his story and such. But we also got Lawrence D. Cohen, who has actual, horror writing experience. He wrote the TV movie, the 1988 TV movie of Carrie. He wrote Ghost Story. And the original It TV miniseries. He wrote the Tommyknockers TV series. And he also did an episode of Nightmares and Dreamscapes from the stories of Stephen King. So you can see how he's got his grasp is firmly in there with Stephen King stuff, right? Like, his genre work is, predominantly Stephen King related. Also with a writing credit. There's two, technically there's more than two, but there's two main writers on this. We got Roberto Aguirre-Sacasa, who was a staff writer on the television series Big Love, which is a fantastic series. So, I mean, he's got writing chops. He's got the talent. But what about horror, right? Like, does he have any experience there? He did an episode of Glee. Does that count? No. Coming up to this, I didn't find anything genre related in terms of his writing credentials. After this, he went on to write to do the writing for the 2014 flick, The Town That Dreaded Sundown, which is that remake, sequel, reboot, rehash, re thing. I think we covered it in a previous 31 Days of Horror. And most recently, he landed as a writer for the Netflix TV series Riverdale and what is it? The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. So yeah. So he's gotten into genre work since then. And I will say, being a writer for Big Love and those two Netflix series, and even The Town That Dreaded Sundown, there's definitely some. Well, he's got some chops. So we've got a horror writer who's done Carrie before, works on a lot of Stephen King, a writer who has done good writing and has gone on to do good horror writing, and a director who did one very successful coming-of-age film. Doing a movie based off of a work by Stephen King, an established writer, where there's already a original film directed by Brian De Palma, which is like most people think is really good. And somehow we ended up with this. Alright. let's take a look at the actors, will we? So who plays Carrie, right? That's the big role. And we've got Chloe Grace Moretz, who has quite a few acting credits to her name, and even genre credits. But most people probably, at least I personally, recognize her from Kick-Ass and Kick-Ass 2, where she kind of really sprung to fame there. She was a Hit Girl, was her character. So, I mean, that's where she developed a name for herself. But she was also in the 2005 remake of the Amityville Horror, where she played Chelsea Lutz, one of the Lutz family. She was in Room 6, Wicked Little Things, a horror film called Hallowed Ground, the 2008, I guess, remake of The Eye, the North American version of The Eye. She did the 2010 remake of Let Me In, the North American remake. The 2012 adaptation, readaptation, reboot, remake, I don't know, of Dark Shadows. I don't know what you even call that. And then after Carrie, she did Fifth Wave, and then she did the 2018 remake of Suspiria. So kudos for her. Most of her genre work seems to be remakes and reboots and such. So, I don't know. So take that as you will. Other actors of note is Carrie's mother, Margaret, is played by Julianne Moore, who is probably the biggest name attached to this film. Younger audience may be more attached to Chloe, but I mean, Julianne Moore, is she Oscar winning? I don't know if she's Oscar winning. She must have won an Oscar by now, right? I don't know. And she's got a huge filmography, so sticking with stuff that may be more famous or genre related. She did Tales from the Dark Side, the movie. She did The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. I haven't watched that movie in a long time. I should really rewatch that. The Gun in Betty Lou's Handbag. Body of Evidence. Benny and June. She was also in The Fugitive. I haven't watched that movie in a long time, too. I should watch that. She was in The Lost World, the Jurassic Park movie. Did she win an Oscar for this? Boogie Nights? I don't know if she won an Oscar for it. Great performance in that. She was in The Big Lebowski. She did the 1998 remake of Psycho. No comment on that. That's very controversial. She was in Hannibal, where she took over the role of Clarice. I don't have a... I'm not even... whatever. I could go off on a tangent talking about other movies, but I'm not going to. She also did Evolution, the fantastic film Children of Men, and most recently, newer audiences may know her from The Hunger Games Mockingjay Parts 1 and 2. And I think she did a really good job as the mother in this movie, obviously working with whatever she was given, and I didn't have a problem with her performances whatsoever. In fact, I probably think her performances were possibly the best in the film. Other people of note, we have Gabriella Wilde, who played Sue Snell, who is kind of a bully at first, but then has a change of heart and then wants to help Carrie out. So she's one of the girls originally who was making fun of Carrie in the shower. She's not been in a lot previous to this. She was in one episode of the new Doctor Who series. She was in the 2011 film The Three Musketeers, and she's gone on to do a part in Wonder Woman 1984, but she doesn't have a lot of credits to her name. Someone who has done a lot of work and is relatively recognizable, Portia Doubleday, plays kind of like the main bully, the instigator, the one who continues to bully Carrie throughout the film. And she started off, I believe her first film was a horror film, and that's Legend of the Mummy. She ended up in Big Mama's Like Father, Like Son, that cop comedy thing with, was it Ashley Lawrence? No, not Ashley Lawrence. Shoot. What is this? Whatever. I can't remember his name. She was in that sci-fi movie Her. And she did Fantasy Island, which I think we covered on a previous 31 Days of Horror. But probably where I recognize her the most from is Mr. Robot, the television series that won numerous awards, where she played Angela Moss. And I think she, plays the bully part pretty well. Standard teenage bully type stuff. We've got the character of Tommy Ross, who is the boyfriend of Sue, who then later takes Carrie to the prom, played by Ansel Elgort. And I was surprised to see this was his first film. He had never done anything prior to this. But he's gone on to, do some, stuff. He ended up in a main character in the Divergent series. So Divergent 2, was it Allegiant or Allegiance or something like that? And Divergent 3, no. Divergent 3 was Allegiant or Allegiance. Divergent 2 was Insurgent or Insurgency. Something along those lines. Anyways, whatever. The Divergent series, preteen, based off of some preteen or tween novel or whatever they call that stuff. Sci-fi series, post-apocalyptic thing, whatever. He also did Baby Driver. And that essentially rounds out your main cast of characters. There are 2 more actors in the film who play kind of like supporting roles that I want to mention. And that's Judy Greer, who plays Miss Desjardins, who is kind of like a sympathetic educator who sees Carrie and tries to help her and be her friend and stuff like that. And she has a very, very, very wide berth of stuff she's been in. And you would recognize her if you saw her, I think. So I'm going to keep her stuff kind of into the genre work, what she's done. She did Stricken, Three Kings, the action film, which I believe may be a remake. She was in M. Night Shyamalan's The Village. She did Cursed, which I think is the werewolf movie. She played Cornelia in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War of the Planet of the Apes. She was in Jurassic World and Ant-Man, and she was in Into the Dark, as well as the 2018 film Hallowe'en. So, yeah. She's got some genre work behind her. Also in the film, as the principal, he was the principal, is Barry Shabaka Henley, who, maybe if you know the name, kudos to you. But he's one of those faces who he's like, if you went to IMDb and looked him up, he'd have a gigantic list. Mainly because he does a lot of one-offs in television series, a lot of small speaking roles in films, and he also has a lot of, much like this principal role, just supporting characters who may not be in the film a lot, may not have huge roles, but they're recognizable and they do play a part, right? In terms of his genre works, he started off, I think his first one was Lord of Illusions. Then he did Fallen and Rush Hour, the Jackie Chan comedy action film. Mr. Malevolent, the horror film. He was in the TV series Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where he played Dr. Marcus Benson, which may be one of the more recent things that people might recognize him from. And most recently, he was in a film that was at TIFF called Dolomite Is My Name with, I think it was Rudy Ray Moore as Dolomite. So, yeah, it's nice to see him in there. So this film has a lot of people with, recognizable faces, recognizable names. And because I should mention them, because they were also kind of played students in the film that had recurring roles. We've got Zoe Belkin, Samantha Weinstein, Carissa Strain, and Katie Strain, playing girls who mocked Carrie and such. And, they had roles in the film, and they played a part, but they weren't big roles, and they weren't faces or names that you might recognize, and didn't really go on to do anything prior or after of note. So that's why I'm kind of just mentioning them, but not really focusing on them. But getting down to the nitty-gritty of the film, I could compare it to the original. I could compare it to remakes. I could look at it by itself. But we're going to start off and reiterate that the original Carrie, the Brian De Palma Carrie, which will be known as the original Carrie, didn't need a remake. So, what did this remake bring to it? I think it expanded on the relationship between Carrie and her mother. I think it did bring more special effects. And it did expand on the end of the film. There's more to the ending, the climax, or whatever you want to call it. More. I'd say more to the climax. We'll just call it the climax of the film. More special effects. But the question is, did they add anything? Brian De Palma's Carrie is artistic. It is a work of art. This one feels like an attempt to cash in. I like Chloe as an actor. I don't know if I like her in the role of Carrie. What the heck? That's not what I used to do. That's not, to say that I don't know if it's her fault or not. I think partially it is. I don't think she quite drove home the character quite the way that, like, when Sissy Spacek did Carrie in the original film, she felt naive. She felt awkward. You could feel it, right? Like, it came through the screen, and you could feel that coming from her character. And everything, all the emotional relationships and etc. that Carrie goes through in the original film, Sissy really made work. In this film, partially due to Chloe, partially due to writing, partially due to the directing, Carrie I don't know, I don't quite get the naivete that I think I should. And maybe I'm tainted from seeing the first film. I don't know, but clearly we know that she's been homeschooled. She hasn't been out in the world much, and essentially all she knows is what her mother's told her. And in this remake, it's there, that aspect is there, but it's not as strong as the original film. We obviously, we have the shower scene, which in the original, Brian De Palma makes that it's a really long scene. It's done very artistically. And this one, it's like, it's there, you get the point, but it's only done because it sort of like needs to. It's almost like because of the amount of time spent on it in the original film and maybe the nudity and stuff, they decided that wasn't necessary. And I mean, nothing is anything really, no, I mean, those were artistic decisions. And this one essentially just shows that it happens and gets, this is what happens, tell the story and move on. So obviously we learn that, she doesn't know things. But at the same time, in the remake, Carrie, though she should only know and understand the Bible the way her mother taught her, there are instances in the film where Carrie is rebellious and to the point where I felt she had become too secular, right? She had drifted too far away from what she should only know, considering she's not at a school where she's learning, especially things about the Bible and religion. She's not, that's not what she's being taught, at least you never see that in the film. But she takes on, it's almost like she's been on the internet learning type stuff, but we don't see that happening. So outside of, the reading and what she hears from her friends, there's no reason why she should go against or think anything really differently than what her mother has taught her. But yeah, she definitely is more secularized in this remake than I felt she was in the original, which is a weird juxtaposition. I just don't think they showed any reason for that in the film. It's not to say it couldn't happen. It's just it wasn't given to us, so it felt a little out of place. The other aspect that was different was obviously the relationship between the mom and the daughter. There's more of that in this film than in the original. I don't know that it did a better job or even as good a job of demonstrating the relationship between the two. It just sort of hammered home the same thing over and over again. It didn't really develop it much further, even though there was more of it. I did think, and I could be wrong, but it seemed like there was more of Carrie's development of her powers in the remake than in the original. In the original, she's kind of learning about it, but she's not really. I didn't find she was really mastering it. Whereas in this one, it seemed like, she was mastering it. She wanted to learn it more in this film, even though that aspect is there in the original. It seemed like in this one, it's hammered home a little bit more. Maybe that's one of the things they wanted to change. They wanted to sort of drive home how Carrie learned about these things and wanted to learn about it and wanted to know how to control and stuff. Which brings us to kind of the climax of the film, the prom, and I felt in the original the whole sequence of events just seemed to be more in step with the characters and what I felt that they would be doing. And in this remake, I don't know. I mean, they went more for special effects. In the original, I got the sense that, you know, Carrie just kind of snaps, and that's why things turn out the way they do. Whereas in this one, she doesn't snap so much as go, you know, like, this is the last straw, that, you know, you've gone too far and I'm going to punish you, right? Like, there's more of that feeling. At least that's what I got from it. That being said, yeah, they definitely went with more special effects. I didn't time them. I compare them. I think maybe the remake is longer in terms of the prom sequence. I could be wrong, but it seemed longer. And then, of course, it goes on and continues on from there, and there's more special effects and more stuff going on. And, of course, there's the ending. The ending. The original Carrie, which I've heard is not the original ending in the book, has a great ending. You know, memorable ending. People remember that ending from the original Carrie. This one has a very bad special effect ending that just, no, it doesn't work. And it may be closer to the book. Maybe that's why it is what it is. But I do enjoy the original more than this one. So yeah, they often say remakes aren't as good as the originals. This is one of those. I think it falls drastically short of what the original film was. Yeah. Original film just had better directing. I think it had better writing. The special effects were essentially on par. I didn't think the special effects were bad in the first film, and I don't think there needed to be more of them. I think the acting was better in the first film. That being said, if you just take the remake as it is, without saying, it's okay, it's fine. It does, like I said, have the problems I find with Carrie's development, how she sort of goes from one character to her final form. Certain aspects are definitely fleshed out, whereas other ones seem out of character or sudden, just whatever, out of nowhere type thing. And I think because of that, this one definitely, even if you had never seen the original Carrie film and you just went into the remake, you would watch and go, the movie was okay. It was interesting. I liked what I saw here and there. But you wouldn't go back and be like, this is a film everybody's got to see, right? Like, this is so cool. You'd probably just go, it was an okay horror film. Whereas you watch the original Carrie and you go, wow, okay, that's a good horror film. I like that. That was enjoyable. And maybe you didn't. I don't know. I'm just personally, and from what I've heard around the grapevine, if you will, most people tend to enjoy the original Carrie. Though I have heard some people comment about, how it relates to the film, the original Stephen King's book. And I tend to not listen to that because movies are the movies, books are the books. Some movies do better adaptations of books than others, but again, a book says a lot more. It's hard to do in one film. Any book, like any regular sized book, to do in film form, generally, should be 2 to 3 movies a book. So that's just my opinion. If you wanted to see everything that happened in the book and everything up on screen, that would have, that's essentially what you'd be looking at. I don't think the pacing would be great. I don't think they would make for necessarily great films. I mean, it's possible, but it's a lot harder because, a book is there to fill that picture in your mind, right? So it has to describe and mention more and give you more information, whereas a film doesn't have to give you that information in the dialogue. It gives it in visually. So, I mean, whereas a book may spend 3 pages on describing what a house looks like and how it feels and smells. In the film, they're in the house, right? Like, so yeah, we all know that the books and films are 2 different things. So would I give this a recommend? Honestly, I recommend go watch if you haven't seen Carrie, and you maybe you've picked this up. If you've picked this up, watch the original first. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe don't. Maybe watch it in reverse. Watch the remake and then the original and tell me which one you like better. Comment down below. Yeah. I think the original is far superior. Far superior. The remake is okay, but it already, like I said, it already has all this stuff to pull from, so it really doesn't give you anything new. And what it does give you new either isn't necessary or isn't better, right? So if I'm going to give it a rating, I'm giving it right down the middle. It's a 50%, 2.5 out of 5. I'm not going to give it a recommend. My recommend is go watch the original. If for shits and giggles, like I said, you have the original and you have the remake, you've never seen Carrie before, if you want to do an experiment, watch the remake, then watch the the original. Maybe you'll feel different. I don't know. It's almost like I almost want to say, if you're older, do that, and if you're younger, do it the other way. Or maybe we get a bunch of people of different ages and backgrounds doing it both ways, and let us know. I don't know. The internet is a weird place, and everybody has different feelings and thoughts. I just don't think that this remake is a better movie or film, if you will, than the original. And it obviously didn't need to get done. And I was hoping it would have done something either completely different or at least as good and improved upon the original. But alas, that was not to be so. So, yeah, let us know what you thought. Comment down below. Maybe if I hear from Leslie, maybe I'll put her her thoughts in text on the bottom of the screen at some point. I don't know, probably not. But yeah, more 31 Days of Horror to come, and already you can feel that, right? Wow, what are we gonna do? I don't know. Do you? Anyways, thanks for watching. Till next video, take care. Have a good one.